What happens if someone is not ready to die or they are already dead? They're just not aware that they are dead. Is it possible that their restless spirits still wanders the plane of reality? Do we have any clues or evidence of this supernatural phenomenon? Welcome back to The Mind is the Altar. On March 11, 2011, a devastating magnitude 9.1 earthquake rocked Eastern Asia seafloor, sending a wave of ocean water, the highest of a 12-story building, into Japan coast. More than 15,000 people lost their lives. Millions lost access to running water or electricity, and more than 120,000 buildings were destroyed within a matter of minutes. But shortly after the disaster, traumatized survivors began to see the faces of victims in puddles, wandering the seas and appearing at their doors. Figures drenched in water were also seen hailing cabs, only to disappear once they climb into the back seat. Residents all across the city were reporting supernatural events. A man named Richard, who lived in Japan for 18 years, told the news that people grief and loss and anguish came out. What also came out after a few months were stories of ghosts and hauntings and supernatural events, to the extent that it almost seemed like epidemic. In 2006, a graduate student of sociology named Yuko Kudo traveled to one of the city to study the epidemic. She interviewed one of the town's cab drivers. The first cabbie told Kudo of an encounter he had in the summer of 2011. The cabbie said that he was naturally shocked to suddenly spot a young woman hailing him down in a particular hard-hit area. The woman was wearing a heavy winter coat in the middle of summer. The figure was also completely drenched. The drivers barely had time to realize that it hadn't rained yet. Matter of fact, it hadn't rained in days before she climbed into the back seat and asked to be driven to an abandoned district. That area is almost empty, he said, while switching on the meter. Are you sure? There was a long silence. Then, in a shivering voice, the woman asked, "Have I died?" The terrified driver turned around to face the customer, but instead he found absolutely nothing, nor anyone in his car. Another cabbie told Kudo that he picked up a confused-looking man in his 20s who kept pointing towards the mountains. He kept pointing forward when asked where he needed to go. Finally, he said simply, "Hioriyama," a mountain nearby the city. After getting to this mountain, the driver, the cabbie, he parked his cab. When he turned around to be paid, there was nobody in his car. One man in Kurihara said that he now despised the rain, as he sees the eyes of tsunami victims he knew in the puddles. The ghost of an old woman is said to haunt a refugee home in Onagawa and to have a regular sit down for a cup of tea there. The cushion that would be left out for her was soaked in sea water every time her visits were over. One fire station received a lot of phone calls until the firefighters drove to the caller's ruins to pray for the dead. Then the calls stopped completely. There are more supernatural events that took place since the tsunami. People getting possessed, having visions of the tsunami when it hit, seeing ghosts asking for help, and seeing their loved ones who passed away standing by the buildings that collapsed during the tsunami. It is possible that if a soul is not ready to go into the other realm, it will still roam around in this earth, to where sometimes you might be able to see it if it is in the same frequency as you. We call this spirits, ghosts. In this town, Japan have indeed found other creative ways to grieve. For example, the town installed a phone booth called Phone of the Wild. This phone is on top of the hill overlooking the ocean to send messages to their loved ones in the other realm. Imagine taking a trip and going to this city. Imagine if you're empath or sensitive to the other realm, imagine the energy that you will feel. My advice is, if you are in this city, if you are just taking a tour, not to take anything from this city, because any item could be attached to a spirit that is not ready to let it go yet. You might just bring that in your house as a souvenir, but then you might experience some supernatural events in your own house. Well, folks, that's my time. I will see you in my next video. If you have subscribed to the Mind is the Altar, I just want to say thank you for your support. If you're new to the Mind is the Altar, feel free to subscribe, and also don't forget to hit the like button. I'll see you on my next video.